Hi, we're going to talk about the Cold War main events. We are discussing Diego Espina, Paula Diaz, and Diego Icardi. So first, we're going to start up with the United States main events, with the situation with the Western Europe countries.
First, it's important to take into account or to know what is the Marshall Plan. They were allies, and the Marshall Plan was an initiative of the United States to help Western Europe, in which the Americans gave aid. United Nations were related. Six nations formed the European Economic EEC.
So the economy. For decades, the United States government waged the Cold War. This caused massive changes in the allocation of resources, with effects of many dimensions of the nation's economic performance.
Also, the economy of United States was based on capitalism, which had three pillars of democratic capitalism. Sorry, this include economic incentives throughout free market, fiscal responsibility, and liberal moral cultural system that encourage pluralism.
The social upheaval were seen between the Afro-Americans that were anti-war movements, and the dramatic increase in the role and power of the federal government, the rise of organized labor as a significant force in the economy and politics.
So this is the beginning of a welfare state and a realization of the need to deal fairly with the concerns of minorities, especially African Americans.
Many Americans opposed the war on moral groups upheld by the devastation and violence of the war.
In addition to this, there were many groups raised, as the radical group called the Black Panthers, which was founded by the Afro Americans, which were tired of the abuse of the white people, of some white people and the white government, which wanted rights in a radical way. This also opened the creation of also different groups as hippies and many anti-war movements.
There was a lot of changes in the middle class. For example, business people, lawyers, doctors, and teachers. They were made up by these people.
So also there were many like anti-communism programs, which United States didn't want to the communism to spread. So they created these anti-communism programs to people be afraid of being like communism, and this led to the creation of the blacklist of Hollywood, which was some movies that talk about the communism, and these actors were like put in this blacklist, which meant that they were not called in any movie, and they were like discriminated by Hollywood, and their movies will not like succeed. Now we're gonna talk about the USR main events.
To introduce this, the Stalin's regime was eliminate all possible sources of opposition to the transition from socialism to communism.
Um, this was based in establishing communism in the country and taking charge of strength and then turning into a world power.
Taking into account Khrushchev's regime and plan, it was about he was responsible for the partial Stalinization of the Soviet Union, for supporting the Soviet space program, and for several relatively liberal reforms in domestic politics.
And after Stalin's death, Nikita Khrushchev denounced the most brutal policies of the Stalin regime.
And finally, the dictator and reform Stalin's policies of terror and fear during a Stalinization process.
The population reaction with these regiments, well, in more the Stalinist regime, which was very radical. Well, the population of Russia was not with this regime. They were tortured, and some of them were killed and sent to gulags. Also, some of them were abused, with many forced jobs, so they were not very good with the Stalinist regime. So that's it. This was our presentation about the Cold War main events. I hope you like our presentation, and see you soon.